Hello. Make sure that I am live right now. I appear to be. Hello. I need to get chat up on my thing, and we're gonna begin pretty shortly. Let's pull up. Need to get my chat going. Give me 1 sec here to check this. Here we are. Okay. Hello and welcome to tonight's The Music Breakdown Live. I woke up an hour ago. And hello. So I have a bit of the whole just woke up voice kind of thing going, so I'm just gonna make myself talk for a while before we actually jump into the review of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which is what I'm doing tonight. But we'll talk about we'll just talk about Kendrick. We'll talk about all these albums because I've actually been listening to all of them. I won't be on Rate Your Music this whole stream, just for the first 5 albums. When we get to Mr. Morale, I'll put it up on the screen and it'll look a little bit fancier. Not very fancy, but fancier than otherwise. Did I get a new camera? Do I have different lighting? No, it's the same. It's all the same. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna stop being sleepy at some point. You gotta understand things have been a bit all over the place. But you know what? I make it work. Get some coffee. I don't have it. Where am I gonna get coffee? I don't have any coffee. Where am I gonna get it? Where am I gonna get it? I don't know. But anyway, I make it for this show, okay? No matter what. That's how it's gonna be. Every Wednesday it's gonna happen. Assuming that I'm capable of streaming it. Anyway, all right. A drink would help me. I might grab it later. So anyway, yeah, none of that matters right now. Did y'all see the new video, the 4-hour fucking tier list video that went up? I mean, I suppose if you were there for that stream, there's nothing new in that video because it's pretty much just a re-upload of the stream. It's edited a tiny bit. That tier list took us like 4 hours to do. No, I mean way more than that. And so there wasn't it wouldn't have been easy for me to edit it the way I've been editing my videos for the channel from the streams. So I just took out like the chat voting stuff and also like any big breaks that we took. So it's edited, but only marginally. The beginning is edited as well. No, that's the thing. I did the YouTube chapters for every song, but YouTube didn't actually put them up. So I wonder if I went over the maximum. Like maybe there's a maximum for the amount of chapters you can have. The timestamps are all in the description though. That's all you have to do to get the chapters to go up. You just put the timestamps in the description and then it automatically does it. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's the only way you can do it. It's kind of weird. But anyway, there are no chapters, so okay. Anyway, there are no chapters, but you can use the timestamps in the description if you want to find whatever song. I had to a lot of the songs I had to abridge the titles of because there's a 2,000 character limit on the YouTube descriptions, and I kept exceeding that, so it was difficult to get it all to fit. I think actually there's exactly 5,000 characters in that description, so I had to really I had to really go at it. Anyway, But I think the video turned out good. I think the thumbnail turned out a lot better than my other thumbnails have been turning out. So my thumbnail game might step up a little bit. I think I'm gonna start taking my face out of the thumbnails. I promise you, this isn't any kind of like terrible self-deprecating kind of thing, but I legitimately think my face is just not attractive enough to be thumbnail bait. So that was why, like, after a certain point, I started doing meme faces in the thumbnails. But you know, I can only do that for so long before I feel bad for clickbaiting, because even though I know it's a joke, like, it's still clickbait. Like, it's kind of just me lampshading the fact that I'm clickbaiting really hard. So I'll probably take the thumbnails out. Listen, I didn't say I wasn't a cutie, okay? I was just saying there's a certain level of attractiveness you have to reach to be able to pull, you know, in your thumbnails, and I just don't think that I'm there. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I'm up in my thumbnail game. They're gonna be a little bit less clickbaity, and they're gonna be a little bit nicer looking as best as I can achieve. So, you know, that's just a going forward kind of thing. Anyway, I think that we're just going to get into this because a lot of I'm just going to talk about the first 5 albums, and I don't have the most structured thoughts or even the most final thoughts, so it's not really important for me to wait for people at the end of this stream, or I mean, maybe I'll do more after, who knows, but at the end of I'll talk about the first 5 Kendrick Lamar albums that I've been listening to lately, as I was listening to Mr. Morale, and then I'll do a full like review of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So that's really what you should be here for, and we'll get to that probably in not too much time. So let's just start. Let's just go album by album. I guess I'll pull up my track ratings for this. I guess I might as well. You need some kind of visual component. I'm still figuring that shit out. One day we'll have it. But anyway, yeah, I had never actually listened to Section 80 before. And no, Untitled and Master will be discussed. I've been listening to that too. So anyway, Section 80, I had never heard before. I decided to go back and listen to Kendrick's debut album while I was listening to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. You know, one thing about the new album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, is that it's an album that I think relies maybe more so than ever before on Kendrick's like past as an artist and Kendrick's whole history as an artist. I don't know if any other album is as indebted to that concept as this one is. Maybe Damn a little bit. But anyway, because of that, I decided it'd be good for me to actually listen to some of these. So I listened to Section 80. You know, I don't know, maybe this was cool when it came out, but honestly, like, this just, I think the style of hip hop that Kendrick's going, like the style of the beats and all this stuff, it's just aged. Like these beats just don't hold up today, for the most part. It depends on the beat. It does depend on the beat, but I don't know. I really got early 2010s, late 2000s vibes from a lot of these beats, and not really in a good way. So the beats were an immediate turnoff for me, I think, on most of this album. On I would say Absol's outro, High Power, Fuck Your Ethnicity, Hole Up, and Poor Man's Dream. On those songs, I thought the beats were cool and good, and even the chapter interludes had okay instrumentals. But other songs like The Spiteful Chant and Ronald Reagan Era and Rigor Mortis, I mean, and even ADHD, like, I just was not feeling those instrumentals. And I, you know, that was a lot of what made me feel a bit mildly about this album, because this is like Kendrick's most generic sounding album. And not to say that, you know, he doesn't use trendy instrumentals on a lot of his projects, because he does, and even on the new album we'll talk about for sure. But I think that on this album, even Kendrick himself wasn't necessarily like, he wasn't transforming the songs with his voice and his songwriting like he does on pretty much every album after this. I mean, you know, like even on Damn, which is a lot more mainstream oriented. Like there's a lot of interesting things that happen in those songs that you feel like a thing only Kendrick, or you could only really get from Kendrick, or at least not from many artists. But when I listened to this, I don't know. Like, not saying Kendrick doesn't hold his own on this album, because he definitely does. And I mean, obviously that's the reason that anybody would have been interested in this album when it came out, period. Like, he's an amazing lyricist, but at the same time, and a good performer. The thing about the Kendrick as a performer on this album is that I really felt like I could hear his influences the entire time, like really, really strongly. Which, is that a bad thing? Like, no, it just isn't as interesting as later work. Because I feel like with the next album, Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick came into his own, like, completely. I don't hear anybody else when I hear Kendrick on that album, but here I hear a lot of like Eminem on tracks like Rigor Mortis. And there were some like flows that sounded a lot like what Eminem was doing at this exact same time, which is obviously really cringe. It didn't work for Eminem, and it didn't work for Kendrick. And but maybe even but more than Eminem, I heard a lot of Kanye on this album. Like, if you listen to a lot of the, not every track, but quite a number of these tracks, listen to like how Kendrick raps, and even like some of the distorted effects they sometimes place in his voice. It's literally exactly like Kanye West around this time, like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, maybe Graduation. And look, like, I'm not gonna say it makes it bad. I'm just saying it was something that took me out of the experience from the perspective of like a Kendrick Lamar album. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be a good Kendrick Lamar album. It just has to be a good album. And, you know, it's okay. It's just that, like, there's a lot of things that are rough around the edges about this, I personally felt, is all I would say. Like, as you can see from my track ratings here, there were 3 songs that I really loved, and then the rest of it was okay. And there were some tracks which I really did not like. The Her Vice and Her Evil songs, these were just painful to listen to. Like, they could have been worse if handled by a worse rapper and worse production. But the song about like how Kendrick's asking for women not to wear makeup to show their true beauty, it's like one of those things that dudes think is like an uplifting message of like body positivity, but really it's just insulting and belittling and fucking stupid. And not to mention the fact that, you know, dudes will say shit like that, like, oh, you know, I don't want to see you in makeup, but then the second women don't wear makeup, they get bullied relentlessly, in part by dudes for looking ugly. So I don't know. I'm not saying Kendrick would be the person to do both of those things, but it just struck me as incredibly tone deaf. And then Tammy's song was fucking kind of homophobic. And I really didn't... First of all, I didn't know that Kendrick had a song where he used the D slur against lesbian women. And he suggested that the reason... He suggested that women become lesbians. They become lesbians because the men in their lives don't treat them well all the time, or sometimes they also just want to cheat and go lesbian. That was rough, man. The only thing I liked about that track was the beat, at least, was kind of like different and interesting. But anyway, aside from those tracks, you also have this song, Keisha's song, Her Pain. I'm really conflicted about this track, to be honest. Like, Kendrick invents this story of a sex worker who eventually is assaulted, murdered. And he invents the story because he wants to tell the story to one of his younger siblings, or not his daughter. No, I really can't remember what the familial tie is, but some younger sibling in his family. And I don't know, like, it's just something about Kendrick writing, like this guy writing this story about what it's like to be a sex worker, it felt demeaning. And I remember even reading like in the Genius the Genius annotations, people are like, see, Kendrick isn't has nothing against sex workers. It's like, okay, well, you can say that. And I mean, like, it's, I understand that, you know, it's totally valid to bring up these the economic reasons that force a lot of women into doing that work, which is obviously horrible. And I guess that's what Kendrick was getting at. But there were just a lot about that story that he constructed that just read weird to me. But anyway, the song was okay. But I'm just trying to go over some of the things I thought about this album, but realistically, I didn't think a lot of it. Like, I mildly enjoyed it. Like I, you know, I could put this album on and listen to it fine, and like it's fine. And there's some good tracks, but I don't know. To me, I was kind of disappointed, honestly, because I was at least expecting a little bit more from Kendrick's first album. So anyway, so I heard that, and then I also have been listening to this again. I haven't actually listened to Good Kid, Mad City prior to now for probably like 5 years. Actually, I can literally go look. 2015. You know, I probably didn't listen to this album after 2015, like one time. You know, I used to be bad at getting into hip hop albums because I was a very like inattentive listener. So if I couldn't like just enjoy the sound of the music like purely on that basis, if there was any other digging I needed to do to fully get the album, like it just wasn't something that was going to vibe with me, because I just didn't really pay attention to lyrics or even music as much at the time. So coming back now, like, has been very interesting. Mainly just because this album is like, you know, everybody says this, but this album is a masterpiece. Like, it especially like listening to this after I listened to Section 80, it's kind of insane. It's actually very insane how much of a leap he took with this project. And like, you know, it says it's a short film by Kendrick Lamar, and I love that because it totally is. Like, it plays so much like a movie, and a movie that's told in what the fuck is the word when you tell a movie and it's not in order? Whatever, it's not in order. The word's escaping me. But the story's not told in perfect chronological order. Like, he jumps around a lot, and he also jumps around between like kind of coming out of body, like on Backseat Freestyle, where he's really just playing himself in that moment. But then Art of Peer Pressure is sort of like the same situation, but now it's an internal view. And just so many interesting things that he does to tell this story. And non-linear. That's what I meant. Non-linear. So anyway, it's a great hood movie, but it is like a hood movie. You know, it's like a hood movie in music form. And I think that, you know, having Kendrick be the person we kind of know him to be from Section 80 and probably some of his past mixtapes, which I have yet to listen to, it just puts us in an interesting perspective listening to the story, because we kind of know like how Kendrick really does feel about a lot of this stuff and what's really going around him. And so we see him getting into situations we know like he doesn't want to be in. I guess that's obvious, but the whole idea of the album is the peer pressure that he's experiencing being in this mad city, right? And beginning to live a violent lifestyle alongside his peers, and hurting his family and hurting everybody he knows. And I love how Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst is the big moment of realization, where like each verse is almost like a character from a member of his family or somebody he knows, and their verses end with the way their lives might end, at least in relation to Kendrick. So if he continues down the path he's going down, which was honestly, that's just astonishing. That is genius. I don't know if I've ever heard that before in that way. And then I also think like this is an album where the skits enhance it a lot. There's a lot of skits. I guess they're like presented as voicemails, but we'll call them skits. Some of them are skits between tracks that just help you place yourself in the story, and they never go too far with it, and it also doesn't feel like the album relies on them as a crutch. Like it's perfectly perfectly confident telling the story just through the songs, but the voicemails and skits just provide that little bit of extra context. There's also some funny stuff, like I love his dad obsessing over getting Dominoes. There's some silly stuff in there, and it's not an album that always takes itself 100% seriously. There's fun to be had, there's humor in it, but there's a really serious dark side here too, and both of those things just work incredibly well. And what's maybe even more impressive than all of that is the fact that he can tell this story with a series of legitimately super catchy, like radio ready songs. Most of these songs can be played on the radio or streamed on their own, or put in a playlist or whatever, and the only thing they lose is the connection to other tracks, but the songs themselves are just spectacular, like so enjoyable and so mainstream too. Coming after Section 80, like you can really hear him going toward more of a pop ready sound, but like not like all it does is enhance his art on this album. It doesn't hurt anything about his performance. In fact, it really only allows him to shine even more. I find the structure and sequencing of this album to be really unique. I don't know if I've heard an album like some of the choices are different. Like they wouldn't be choices you would think would work. Like opening on Shireen. Shireen is a strange opener and a very weird tone setter, but it works so well because of it starts us toward the end of the story. We don't get back to what's happening on Shireen for like 6 tracks. So the sound of Shireen isn't really much of an intro track sound, because it's more like, here's a taste test, here's a scene setter for where the story's gonna end up, and then we're gonna have the album really start after that. That's how I felt about that, and I thought that was super unique. But that song was awesome. All of these songs are awesome. Mad City is just fucking crazy. The beat switch in that, and the way the story jumps around, and the characters and voices Kendrick uses and plays, and is just amazing. I've always, some tracks I've always loved on this. Like I always really enjoyed Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. It's definitely one of the most immediately enjoyable tracks, but it's just super hooky. It sounds great. And then of course Swimming Pools, which has an amazing hook and a great message, and just like it's very subversive, which I really like about it. And then, the last thing I want to say is I love how positively this album ends, and Kendrick gets into Jesus, basically. I mean, for me, I don't give a shit, but it's just like the message at the end of this is that Kendrick is trying to tell this story to help. Like the real way for him to give back to his city is to tell a story which convinces other people to not to live this lifestyle, which is an interesting angle to take. And I really felt like there aren't a lot of flaws with this album at all. Like it's really, really strong. I'm not showing ratings or any of these are all old. I don't even know what I meant by any of that shit. But yeah, no, I really have been really enjoying this, coming back to this. I'm not going to talk about Different Butterfly that much. It's fucking awesome. It was an incredible step forward. Coming after Good Kid, Mad City, this is like insane what he did here. And this is such a left hook. And that's all I'm going to say. I've already talked about this like a bunch fairly recently, so we don't need to talk about it now. And it's like, you already know. It's, it's fucking To Pimp a Butterfly. You already know. Granted, you could say the same with Good Kid, Mad City. But what has been interesting is listening to Untitled Unmastered again. And again, these are old ratings. We're not going to look at them. But this is a compilation album, essentially. I mean, it's a collection of demos, unfinished things, stuff that, you know, he came in and like finished up or quickly threw together just to get them out there. I guess some of this stuff had been performed on TV shows and in other performances. So like some of this material had been heard but wasn't like released, and it wasn't on To Pimp a Butterfly. Some of it maybe was made for To Pimp a Butterfly but didn't end up on it. I think what makes this release suffer is, you know, it's a compilation album. It's a collection of unfinished stuff, like, and it suffers for being that, but that's what it is. So I can't like say that's as much of a critique. I will say that with pretty much all of these tracks, I'm glad they didn't make it onto Pimp a Butterfly if there was even the opportunity. I think all of this stuff pales in comparison to any of that, although there are some really strong tracks here, but even those tracks are held back a little bit by the fact that this is a mostly unmastered project. When I'm saying that, and I'm not convinced that's 100% true, because they're at least mixed and mastered enough so that everything's perfectly audible across any way that you choose to listen to this album, which suggests to me there was some mastering, but whatever the case, it is not a full or complete master at all. And that hinders pretty much every track, and a lot of the beats are just too quiet, too hard to make out everything going on. It's just not as pristine as To Pimp a Butterfly, and I get it. Like, that's kind of the aesthetic of releasing them in this way, but it does hinder them a lot. It's, you know, there's some really strong moments here, and it's like an interesting release, but I don't think that this is some kind of hidden gem or something. I mean, it's not hidden, but you know what I mean. And one last thing I want to say is, like, the stupid pimp hooray thing. Thank God that didn't make it onto Pimp a Butterfly. That shit's so stupid. Okay, let's talk about Damn. I haven't been listening to this as much as the other three that I just talked about, but I have listened to this a little bit recently, and just from the last listen, I kind of have a lot to say. Actually, I really enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed it a lot more than I remember enjoying this. I actually put a review out for this back when. I don't remember what the hell is in that review. All I know is, you know, at the time I found this album really boring. I thought like it was just too low-key and too chill and vibey a lot of the time. I guess, you know, it set me up for something else with DNA, because you have Blood and then you have DNA, and DNA is like it just rips, you know. And I was like, oh shit, so that's what this album's gonna be like. And it is not at all. Like, there are bangers like in the track list, but uncommonly. It's like, am I really gonna complain about that though? Like, every other Kendrick album was also that way. It's not like Kendrick was an artist who just makes bangers. I guess there's just something about the album's presentation and promo that made me expect that. But no, it's just this, all of his other albums before it, it's a highly lyrical project. You really have to listen into what Kendrick's talking about, and the beats don't do all the work. But, you know, with Section 80, I talked about how the beats were just a little bit too lackluster for my taste, or I just couldn't get into them. And then here, I don't feel like that's the case. They're not... Look, production-wise, this is a big step down from the last two albums, not counting Untitled Unmastered. This is a big step down, but at the same time, like, that is clearly part of the point. Like, it's obvious that Kendrick didn't just want to do what he'd already done before. And I think that was a fair call on his part. And despite that, I think like the beats here are good. Some of them are even great. I you know, DNA is fucking sick. Ya has like this really interesting kind of wooziness and sleepiness to it, which I quite enjoyed. Feel had a really nice sound. It was more live than other tracks were. A lot of the sampling on here can be pretty interesting. Some of the beat switches are really unexpected, like on Triple X, which is actually one of my lesser favorites so far. But still, like, I also enjoyed like some of the tracks that do go in a more mainstream direction, like Love and Loyalty. I really liked, and I guess DNA to a certain extent. Humble has aged not the best. Like, even just listening to that a couple years later, that beat sounds a lot shittier than it sounded back in the day. Like, I remember that beat going harder. I remember that piano going harder. It's still good. Like, I still enjoy the track. It's an enjoyable track, but like, I would say the same for a lot of this album, honestly. That it feels like a lot of this album has not aged the best. Just coming back to this in a couple of years, like, purely musically and production wise, it doesn't sound that awesome. Whereas I was going back to like Good Kid, Mad City, and that album still sounds incredible to this day. I don't really think it's aged at all. So that's really the main critique that I have, as well as like some of Kendrick's weaker tracks like God, which kind of completely sucks. And I also just couldn't get into Lust at all so far. But on the whole, I think this is still a really solid project. I would probably say I like it more than Section 80, but I like it less than all of his other albums. I don't know if I prefer it to like Untitled Unmastered. I probably do, but only by a little bit. No, I don't know. I can't really say for sure. I have to keep listening to this because I don't feel like I gave this even a fully fair shot back in the day, and I've been getting into it. So there's that. Well, all right. Look, I just wanted to briefly go over those things and my thoughts on these records, but I really would like to review the new album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Allow me to change the stream title really quickly so that we can get into that. Can I get to my live stream? Yes, I can. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers review. Okay. That should update that. And let me take this down and bring this up. Okay. One day, I'm sure I'll have like a overlay or something, which would help a lot. But until then, it's just black with there's a big black void with the album cover and the title. Whatever, you're gonna live with it, okay? I think this album is a masterpiece in a lot of ways, but it's like Kendrick's flawed masterpiece because it is flawed, though. That's kind of what I really liked about it. I've never heard Kendrick so vulnerable, and I've never heard Kendrick sound like so much of an imperfect narrator, where a lot of his words are disagreeable and he knows that they are, and that sort of becomes part of the point of the project. He very obviously, like, this was the same way on Damn too, because he definitely talks about a lot of this stuff on Damn as well. But on this record, more so than ever, he's really struggling with the fact that people look up to his music. Like, that has, I guess that's been difficult for him ever since like To Pimp a Butterfly, because even on that album there's tracks where he talks about that, and a lot of that album is about him questioning his place and his success. But on this album, it's like it's completely the focus. And yeah, he comes off as bitter, yeah, for sure. But I don't know, like there's a lot of pain in this album, and it's more noticeable than it's ever been for me, I think, on any Kendrick record. Some of these tracks are legitimately tough listens, like Father Time, We Cry Together, and especially Mother I Sober. And he's really dissecting like not only a lot of his trauma from his family and his surroundings, but also where that's gotten him now, and how he looks around him in the entire world of hip hop and sees all these rappers who he very much believes suffer the same trauma that he does, which causes them to do and act the way that they do, the same way he thinks he does. Of course, I'm dissecting his words. Where I stand on some of this stuff might be different, or it might be the same. I don't know. But, like, you know, Kendrick puts himself in this place where he can talk about this topic. It just doesn't feel like it's the same that it's been on other albums, where a lot of the time he comes across a lot stronger in his messaging and his beliefs. And here, you know, sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't. But I liked that about it. Like, I couldn't end this album having a perfect understanding or a perfect conclusion to draw from everything that's on it. It's very complicated, and that's a lot of the idea here. And not just that, but I mean, musically, Kendrick, I think this is the best I've heard a Kendrick album sound since To Pimp a Butterfly, easily. I mean, and it's so varied. There's so many different kinds of beats and instrumentals and even styles that Kendrick works with all across this record. It's more varied than any other project, maybe. That you can have one song sound like a song you'd hear on the radio right now, like a vibey trap instrumental, or something that even sounds almost sort of like Drake. But then on the flip side of that, you can have a track like Worldwide Steppers or Mother I Sober or United in Grief, which have a much more abstract presentation. And instrumentally, there's always like through lines. There's a lot of piano on this album, like a ton of piano, which is introduced in a perfect way on the first track, and it just comes through almost every other song, or at least a lot of the other songs, which again just keeps tying this all together and keeps it sonically coherent. Because I will say, like, the flow can be weird at points, but the more I listened to the project, the more it worked for me. Like, the more I really got into the way this album moves. It's unique for him, I will say. And what amazed me was how much he could make himself work on any instrumental that he chose. Like, just the first two tracks, you have United in Grief, which is fucking crazy song. A song that just runs around in a bunch of crazy directions, tying its elements together in unpredictable ways. And Kendrick flows on that like nothing's even happening. And then the next song is N95, which is probably like the most generic sounding track on this entire record. And Kendrick just nails it. Like, he just fits on that instrumental. I will say that's maybe the only beat here that doesn't perfectly fit Kendrick, but he fits it, if that makes sense. Like, I'm saying, I don't know if that beat should have been chosen for Kendrick, but it was. And he made it work. Like, he made it work. And it's the same for every track here. And I loved the poppier songs too. One of my favorite songs on this was Die Hard, which is one of the poppiest tracks. There's not even a whole lot of rapping on it. It's just like a very vibey instrumental, really good groove, and beautiful singing, like, from everybody. The singing just comes in and out from different singers, with all providing different hooks, and every single moment is catchy. And that song just sounds so lush and so beautiful. And the lyrical focus of the track, of not knowing if you can still improve. It's a good centerpiece, or towards the center anyway, for disc 1. It seems like in disc 1, Kendrick talks a lot about his family trauma and relationship trauma. You have Father Time, which is about, as he puts it, his daddy issues. And that song goes in a lot of, like, he tackles a lot of interesting angles to that, things that I might not have connected to being about the central theme, but that he does. And I suppose he's been talking about how he's been going to therapy, so I guess a lot of this has been learned. But the way that, I mean, that beat, first of all, is like insane. Like, it's so amazing. The drums sound incredible on that beat. And the hook from Sampha, right? Oh my god. That shit was just amazing. And then you have the song We Cry Together, which is, I mean, definitely the moment that's probably the hardest to listen to, because it's pretty intense. Also really vulgar. But it's like it's a back and forth in a relationship, which the track intros itself as like it's just trying to show you what the world sounds like. So it's not really this is Kendrick and this woman actually having this argument. It's more just like these are arguments that are happening day to day between people who probably have a lot of trauma built up, as we've learned from the rest of the disc. The beat on this track is like incredible. I love the horrorcore sound of the beat. And then like the acting from both Kendrick and Taylor Page on the track is amazing. Like it starts to feel real at points, and it gets really fucking intense. And there are moments where you don't really know who you're supposed, like, are you supposed to side with somebody in the track, or is it set up so that you're like different listeners will side with different people? It's honestly hard to tell what the intent behind it was, but much like with a lot of this album, I loved the inconclusive nature of that I didn't really know what to do with what I heard on that song after it was over, and I really enjoyed that about it. Disc 2 has a lot more of the trap instrumentals, or at least songs influenced by trap. And once again, I just felt like Kendrick worked with that style so well. Like on Silent Hill in particular, like I was blown away by how well Kendrick worked with that instrumental. And same thing with Savior. Savior was an awesome track. Like, the beat itself is so cool. There's so many like reversed samples floating around in the background, and it just sounds so ethereal. And it's like, listening to that song, it makes me feel like I'm kind of losing it. Like, it's hard to fully place yourself into that beat. It puts you in almost like a weird ephemeral kind of no, not ephemeral. That was not the word I meant to say. It puts you in a dream state, I'll just put it that way. And the lyrics of the track, you know, Kendrick dissecting his savior complex and the fact that that he expects himself to be a savior for people, and other people expect it from him as well. And also that, you know, he makes art that comes from such a dark place, and he feels like he doesn't know what people really think about that. I love the hook where he keeps saying, "Are you happy for me?" It's like the way that he says that, it's like he knows that people aren't really looking at his success happy for him. They're just sort of watching him perform his pain. And I found that to be really effective. Really, a lot of Disc 2 is great. I tend to prefer Disc 1 just because Disc 1 had a little bit more variety track to track for a lot of it. But Disc 2, especially in the back half, becomes like incredible to me. Mother I Sober really becomes like the moment where Kendrick explains everything else about the record and why it is the way it is and why he is the way he is. And he goes into Black trauma, and specifically his trauma related to that, and then how he sees the same things that he experienced and that caused him to act the way that he did in so many other people around him. There are a lot of really difficult verses, and the track it's like a therapy session in a way, and it becomes very, very challenging of a listen, but I really loved the ending. And look, Kendrick takes a perspective on this album that I definitely don't agree with completely. Like, his perspective is that he feels that every other abuser in black music genres, and specifically that, I'm not pulling that out of nowhere, that is like, those artists are brought up a lot, including one who lands on the record, Kodak Black, and he sees them as having been products of a cycle of abuse and a cycle of trauma that he wants everybody freed from, not just the victims, but also the perpetrators. And that's the conclusion of Mother I Sober, which is an undeniably interesting and moving perspective for him to take. It just becomes questionable when you place a rapist on your album. That is where it's like, I get it. I get what you're saying. And I guess if Kendrick really does believe that, then there's no inconsistency with what he did with placing Kodak here. But it's just a highly disagreeable thing. You have a track, I believe it was the Rich interlude, where Kodak Black is rapping about how amazing it is he's like rapping with Kendrick Lamar. Do we need to give him that? And then, not only that, but then do I need to hear that? Like, no. And I know a lot of people have taken issue with that, which I totally understand. And I mean, I'm just a little torn, I suppose, because at the end of the day, the way Kendrick explains his point of view across this record is so brilliant and so well thought out that I can't say the inclusion of Kodak Black is ill-conceived. It's just disagreeable, I suppose. And while I'm on that topic, I might as well bring up the other as part of this album, which I feel much the same way about, which is the track Auntie Diaries. And I will start by saying, just so that nobody gets this wrong, like, the more and more I listened to and thought about this track, I think this is one of Kendrick's best songs. Like, let's just talk about the art of it. I think this is one of Kendrick's best songs. The instrumental suits the build so beautifully. Like, it's in a place that you just do not expect it to go where it does instrumentally, and the rise towards the end, the way it cuts off and the line he says at that moment is one of the most genius things I've ever heard from him. And the verses are so intricate, detailed, and layered, maybe more so than any other track on this record, in a way that I would only associate with Kendrick Lamar. So, like, the song is amazing. In all of its problematic, deeply upsetting, and often offensive messaging, it is an incredible track. And then you could say the same thing of the album on the whole, I suppose, right? I did discuss this before, but I might as well put it in the review. It's like, for me, Kendrick talks about his trans family members, his trans uncle and his trans cousin, and all throughout the song, he is routinely misgendering and dead-naming them. And the reason he's doing that, artistically, is that he's trying to rap from his ignorant perspective that he had, that he never felt that he was being offensive or like being transphobic or not accepting them. He always felt like he was accepting them, but their reactions to the things he would say around them struck him that he didn't understand what he was doing wrong. And for cis people, that's going to be incredibly relatable. A lot of cis people are going to heavily relate to that. But I'm trans, so like, for me, I can recognize that this messaging, first of all, isn't for me. It's for cis people to listen to. But also that it's kind of fucked up. Like, Kendrick's talking about two family members who are real people. I mean, unless he's making them up, but I don't think he is. And he's just misgendering and dead naming them for the sake of a song where he might not have really needed to do that to get his point across. And I do go back and forth on that, whether that was necessary to get his specific point across, because, you know, it is worth noting the point he's trying to make is to make a song about being an ignorant cis person. And maybe in order to make that song work, you have to do these things. Maybe. But I'm still so torn on that, and it still feels really fucked up. So it's like, I don't know. I very much believe the song will do good in that it has opened up this conversation in hip-hop and to a mainstream audience where this conversation has been closed for a very long time. And the way it plays into the other themes of the record make it a lot more interesting to dissect and think about, especially for cis listeners, should they choose to look at this song and really look inward about their own transphobia and ignorance. I have reservations in assuming that a lot of cis listeners are going to really do that. Instead of just looking at the song and saying, wow, Kendrick's such a genius. Look at how he used misgendering and dead naming and the F slur in an artistic, genius way. And they're not really going to see the real point of what he's doing and reflect it into themselves and consider how those things might relate to them. That is a concern that I very much have with the track. But what I admire the track for, on the other end, is because I am trans, the perspective that Kendrick has on this song is one that is really interesting to me. And to hear a cis person confront their ignorance in this way is not something that I have heard, certainly not in music. And to hear it from one of the most amazing lyricists and writers in music alive, that was a unique and legitimately deeply moving experience for me listening to. Now, it's moving, it's also really alienating. Like, it very much puts me in a place where I know this song is not written for me. And simultaneously, it's written about my community. That feels kind of fucked up when I'm listening to that song. And it is hard to get past that. But I kind of appreciate the challenge that I'm being put with listening to it from my perspective. I can appreciate how that challenges me, even if it might challenge me in a way that might just be wrong, because it really might be. I'm still torn about that. It's just, as a listener and as a consumer of art, it puts me in a position I will rarely ever be put in. And I found that unique, and I found that highly valuable. And I've had more valuable and interesting conversations about this set of lyrics than I probably have about any other set of lyrics in my life. When I first read this and heard about this song and then listened to it, I've talked about this song with so many different people and have had so many different valuable conversations and so many thoughts about it that I give the song props. And let's go back to the whole album. I feel that way about this whole record. It's really made me think a lot, like a lot. And obviously Kendrick albums tend to do that, but this one maybe more than any others for me, just because of how unique so many of these perspectives are and how many of the things he's talking about here I haven't really heard discussed anywhere else. And that's been anywhere else in music anyway. And that's been really fascinating. And also that he's been able to do it with such a catchy and enjoyable musical backdrop, because this album's fucking catchy. I had a lot of songs stuck in my head. I found this to be incredibly entertaining. For a 1 hour, 14 or so minute album, this shit flies by for me. Like, I put this on and it just flies by. Like, it's so enjoyable. Flawed, yes, and not every song is as good as every other song. There are a couple slightly weaker tracks, but nothing weak at all. Every track is great. I enjoyed every single song on this. I thought this was just awesome. I thought this was just fucking awesome. And the final conclusion Kendrick comes to is very moving for me as well in the song Mirror, where the hook is "I choose me, I'm sorry," which I found beautiful. Like, throughout all of this psychoanalyzing of himself that he's done really since To Pimp a Butterfly, arguably Good Kid, because even on Good Kid, like, the story is very deeply tied to him as a person. And to hear him have struggled so much with the fact that his music reaches so many people and influences so many people, to hear him come to the conclusion that he did it for himself, but simultaneously apologizes for that because he knows it will have bad effects, or could have bad effects, or might be taking advantage of people. That was such a beautiful ending. Let me read your comment here. And what Minto said, I very much acknowledge, and that's been an angle I've been thinking about, is that, you know, I know that the message of Auntie Diaries is not meant to reach me. Like, I'm trans. I already know this shit, you know? Like, my community has been known this whole thing, you know what I mean? But that's very clearly, like, I don't need, this is something that I've thought about too. It's like, some of this Auntie Diary stuff I probably won't include in the video, so we're just talking about this for a moment because I'm trans. People want the trans perspective on the song, whatever. I don't need Kendrick Lamar to write a song for me. You know what I mean? Like, why do I need Kendrick Lamar to write a song for me? Why do I need that? Aside from the fact that there's already so many trans artists out there making trans art, Kendrick's cis. He's approaching this topic from the perspective of a cis person. And so for him to write it for other cis people, it's so easy for me to say it's not his place. But then again, like, is it really not? I mean, it isn't his place. But does that mean he shouldn't do it? Are trans artists going to reach the same people Kendrick Lamar is going to reach? And if Kendrick didn't make the song in such an intensely problematic way, which it is, would it have even reached anybody? Like, would cis listeners just not relate to the song enough to even begin to unpack the issues in the way that Kendrick did? And for the record, I don't think the song goes far enough, but I don't think it can. But I mean, like, if it's the entry level point to this conversation for cis listeners, it's not going to get them to a place where they understand everything about it. Not even fucking close. And could he have done more there? Maybe a little bit. I don't even know if the song makes it perfectly clear enough that you don't dead name and misgender people. I don't know if you if you didn't know that going into the song, if you would come out of it understanding that, which is concerning. But whatever the case, I'm just saying, like, I think there's a lot of value in the song existing. It is questionable whether it needed to exist in the way that it does, but I think that's still a conversation that I'm still having with myself, and I might have with myself for like the whole next year. Every time I re-listen to this album, I might have this conversation with myself. Anyway, but yeah, like, overall, just the conclusions that Kendrick comes to, the thoughts that he had all across this album, the self-therapy that this whole thing turns into, and all of that aside, just the fucking catchy-ass songs, the great production, the great performances, all of that shit was awesome. The only stuff that I didn't like in this album were some eye-roll-worthy lines from time to time about, like, cancel culture and shit. A lot of that shit was fucking cringe, and hearing Kendrick talk about it was cringe, and it barely made sense. And for a little bit of criticism, let me go into that a little bit, because whenever somebody talks about cancel culture, you always have to, like, try to piece together what they're specifically talking about, because there's so many different things you could talk about, and so many of those different things can be either good or bad and can be worth criticizing or not, and I never fucking know what somebody's talking about. Like, when somebody's talking about cancel culture, are they saying that, like the woke mob is coming after, like, went after R. Kelly or something? Or are they saying there are places on social media where people are doing abusive call-outs for clout. That's true, okay? That's true. The extent to which it's true is debatable, but that's true. It's just that, like, are people really talking about that? A lot of the times they're not. A lot of the times they're talking about, like, abusers or, like, racists getting called out. And the troubling thing for me on this album was that I think Kendrick was talking about, like, R. Kelly and shit and Kodak Black. And I don't know if anybody in chat has a thought on this. I don't know if anybody has a thought on this, on what he's talking about, but he specifically brings up, like, R. Kelly, and he has Kodak Black on here, and he talks about, you know, black trauma causing people to become abusers. So he's talking a lot about abusers. So when he talks about cancel culture and how he's afraid to say things, is that what he's talking about? Because if it is, I have no sympathy. I'm sorry. Like, even given his perspective, and how much sense a lot of it does make, and how moving a lot of it kind of was. But, like, if that's his perspective on cancel culture, I'm not gonna act like I think that's a well thought out, good position. I don't care. Like, that's stupid. And so when he brings that up on some tracks, that was fucking cringe. And the Michael Jackson thing, you bring up a good point. But the thing with that was, up until now, that line was always very clearly, at least I thought, meant to be interpreted in a flawed way. Like, that was a flawed ass line. Like, the way he said that, it really seemed like he knew that was, like, incorrect, or like that was too protective of Michael Jackson, and that was part of the point. And that the whole idea behind the Mortal Man song was that, like, when shit hits the fan, is you still a fan? He's asking that for himself, but I think he realizes that there absolutely is a point at which people aren't going to be fans and that it will be justified. That was what I thought about that song. That was like a flawed narrator track, was how I always took it. This album, I also take that way a lot of the time, but then with other lines, I do think he legitimately believes certain things in regards to this. And yeah, the cancel culture lines just made me roll my eyes, first of all, because just hearing people talk about cancel culture in a song is just cringe, even if their points are good about certain aspects of what we could call cancel culture. It's a terrible phrase to use because, again, it could mean fucking anything. Even if their points are good, that's just cringe to hear somebody talk about in a song. I can't get past that. But then, in addition, like, I don't know where the second point was. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, his specific view on that topic is questionable, as are a lot of things on this album. But again, for some reason, the flawed characteristics, the questionable aspects, just forced me to do a lot of thinking while listening to this. And I really appreciated that. And the fact that all the songs are so good really brings it that extra step. And so, like, if this album sounded like shit, I think I'd be way less forgiving of a lot of the questionable aspects. But I think, one, it sounds great, the songs are great, and also, like, his views on these issues are so thought out that it's hard for me to say the fact that I disagree makes it bad. Aside from allowing Kodak Black to be on the album, which I just don't think he should have done. Whatever the case. There's a lot of criticisms to be levied at this album, but it is amazing. That's the thing. Like, this is a flawed masterpiece. That's how I felt about it listening to this. I loved this album. I loved it. Listening to this made me get into Kendrick again, and now, like, I'm more into Kendrick than I've ever been right now, just because of how much I enjoyed this project. Like, this was so fucking good. The songs on this are so great. So great. So many bangers, and then so many moving tracks, and so many vibe cuts that legitimately were vibey and enjoyable. I don't tend to like shit that makes me feel like I'm falling asleep, but nothing on this album did. Like even songs that sounded almost like Drake songs were fucking amazing. Like, this shit was so good. This was such a good album. So many great tracks on this. So many of Kendrick's bests. And, like, I was I was wowed by this record, and it made me do a lot of thinking, and that is a highly respectable thing. Even if I didn't come to the same conclusions Kendrick did, I can't deny that he's so thoughtful that he made me think, and that I appreciate that. I appreciate being challenged, you know? I don't always want to hear music that's just going to tell me everything I already believe and feel and think. Sometimes it's nice to hear something that I might disagree with, but it's told in a way where I want to listen, you know? I was pretty much amazed. You think it, okay, in a weird way, you think him having questionable views and addressing things rather problematically is his way of kicking himself off the pedestal. Minto, I completely agree. Hello, Peachy. Minto, I completely agree with that. And I think part of, I failed to mention that, but I thought that too, that it feels like a lot of the point of him being, he's being problematic almost intentionally, because he wants people to recognize that he is not only not a savior, but also he doesn't have it all together on these issues. And he really feels like, probably because he made Good Kid, Mad City into Pimp a Butterfly, he really feels like people look up to him as somebody who like knows all this shit and has it all figured out and has all the mainstream views that everybody wants him to have. And he wants to break that perception. And I think that's an interesting thing that he did. I don't know if it necessarily excuses the lengths he went in certain regards, like with bringing Kodak on, is really the main thing. Like, I don't know if that excuses that action. You know what I mean? Artistically, it excuses it. But that's about it. Whatever the case, amazing album. Seriously, I really love this. I'm going to be listening to this a lot. I loved this album. I thought this was fucking great. I would give it a 9 out of 10. And if you are watching this on the channel, remember that everything you just saw was streamed live to the Music Breakdown Live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on my Twitch channel, which is linked in the description. I'll love to see you there, and thank you for watching. I forgot to intro us at the beginning, so I might have to record an extra part if I turn this into a video, which I'm planning to. Okay. Do we have any thoughts that we want to go back and forth on with this? Like, anybody have any ideas in chat or anything? Because I'm like, the review's over, so I don't need to be on my pedestal anymore. I really cannot stress enough how impressive I found it that this album made me do so much like thinking. Like, it really did. More than any Kendrick album. And not because other Kendrick albums don't force you to think about shit. I mean, they do. But it's because this one is so disagreeable in so many places. But it forces you to come up with an argument of your own. Because Kendrick makes an argument, and it's a solid one. It's strong a lot of the time. You're forced to hear it and reckon with it, put it through your brain, understand his point, and then make your own argument. Do I want to do reacting shit, or do I want to save the VOD? The VOD's already set to be saved, so I can't. And also, I don't have working headphones for my PC right now, believe it or not, because these are busted, and I haven't gotten the Bluetooth drivers I need for my PC ever since I had to replace parts. So I really can't do reactions anyway. That's why I haven't done them for a few streams. What did you think of Kodak's performance on the album, regardless of him being a rapist? I liked it. We could do a tier list. We can, if you want to. Yeah, fuck it. If you want to. If you want to see me, if you have a tier list you want me to do or some shit, I guess, could we pull up a Kendrick Lamar tier list? That could be interesting. I guess that would be the most thematic. No, but I thought I liked Kodak's verse on Rich Interlude. Well, yeah, I liked the verse. I thought there were some good lines in it, but mostly it was the sound of it alongside the piano I thought he did a good job on. And his performance on Silent Hill was great because it was a trap instrumental. It was pretty much perfect for him. But, you know, I don't like praising this guy, but but you asked. We want to do Kendrick's song tier list? Okay. I'll try to do... Okay. Sure, why not? Let's pull that up. Here. We need to... I need to not show this, just I never know what's going to show up on... Shit. Let's see if there is a Kendrick Lamar song tier list. Oh yeah. Does it include the new album? No, so this is before... Here. I need to have the window down because sometimes I've been searching through Tier Maker and then there'll be like porn on one of the tier lists. I'm not kidding. So I need to make sure that that doesn't happen. We've got a 2022. Oh shit. Okay, cool. We'll do it. Okay, I'll try to be a little quick for most of this because I mean, show the porn. You're not kids. This is Twitch. I'll get banned. What the fuck are you talking about? You've never seen it? Angela, I was literally searching through music category tier lists for one of these streams, and one of them had like porn in the thumbnail. Probably somebody trying to troll Twitch streamers or something. But whatever the case, I'm not taking any chances. That's all I'm saying. That was just a music. It didn't even have anything to do with anything. All right, I'm gonna change these just into. I'm not gonna put an E tier because I don't really think there are a lot of bad Kendrick songs that I would really need to do. And we'll add a haven't heard. So I'll add like a question marks one because I see some stuff from Overly Dedicated and I haven't listened to that. You're gonna try to find that? Oh, okay. So this is yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into this because I may do this in the future when I'm more confident in my thoughts. So let's just kind of do it simply. We'll start with Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, which I guess I'll go with an A tier for that one, maybe an S. N95 I would put in the B. Then we have 07, which is the 8-minute one. I would put that in the C. We have Savior, which I would put in probably the A. We have okay, I don't know the remix to Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. Hood Politics I'd put in A. Chapter 10 I would put in the C. The Recipe is one of the bonus tracks. I haven't listened to that. Poetic Justice I would put in given what's in the A, I guess I'll probably go with a B. Mother I Sober will go in the S. Blacker the Berry goes in the S. These Walls goes in the S. Backseat Freestyle would go in the A. I haven't listened to Overly Dedicated, so I'll make sure that these go into the question marks. Oh shit, I need to get chat up. Are any of these takes making anybody pissed off right now? I think everything's good so far, right? Worldwide Steppers. I'd probably go with an A or a B for that one. Keep in mind, like, these aren't perfectly... when I do tier lists, I try not to make it... This isn't a 10, this isn't a 9, this isn't an 8. These can be 8s and 9s, these can be 9s and 10s. These are, like, 10s as fuck. Does that make sense? C, 6 and 7, kind of. D would be like... Yeah, you get it. You get it. I'm rushing through it. Yeah, I'm trying to. Because this isn't a YouTube video type shit, and if I might eventually come back to this and do this again. I'll try to talk a little bit more about the songs though. We have Pride, which geez, I was just listening to which song is this? This is hang on, I need to see which song this comes around so I can remember because I was listening to it without a track list in front of me. Oh, it's After Loyalty. I'll go with a B. Which one is 06? Oh, that's like the really song-oriented one where it sounds almost like there's a lot of singing on it. I don't know, B, I guess. Real I would put in the B. I do like Real. I like it a lot for the story. It's a bit long. A lot of people criticize the hook. The hook's a little bit weak, but it's more just that the song runs pretty long for its place in the story. But I do like the song. I don't have anything to say about that. 03. Oh, that's the one where he goes through like the different ethnicities of people and what they say. Yeah, I have not been enjoying that track at all. I found that track to be pretty cringe. Yeah, I would put in B. Quite enjoyed that when I listened to that last time. Father Time would be an S tier. This shit, as I was talking about in that review, this shit was just amazing. The beat was amazing. The discussion of trauma from his father, it was amazing. We have Lust, which I would put. I don't like this song at all. I'd put that in D. County Building itself, don't know. Triple X, I would put in probably in the C. I do like it. I just I haven't been crazy about that one. Rich Interlude would go in the B, I suppose. We have Institutionalized, which I would put in the B. This is one of my lesser favorites on T-Pad. For Free Interlude is S tier. That is one of my absolute favorite Kendrick tracks. That actually might be my favorite Kendrick track. Like, For Free Interlude is so fucking good. That shit's crazy. Like, the jazz instrumental in the background and the way that Kendrick's rapping becomes like a solo, like the way the musicians drop out for him to rap over, it's literally like as if it was a sax solo or like a or you know, and that shit is so genius. Like, he comes in like he's the soloist in the song. It's insane. That song is so fucking insane. And just oh my god, could gush about that song all day. 04 would be a D. 08 would be a C, I guess. 02 I would probably put in the B, if not the A. I'd actually put 02 in the A. I actually really like 02. That's definitely the best track on Untitled and Mastered. Ronald Reagan era I would put in the D. For me, there's just something about the beat and the way Kendrick sounds in this song that just does not do it for me. And then like the hook where he's like whoop de whoop whoop de whoop. I don't like that. We Cry Together would be probably an A, maybe an S, but I'll go with A. No, it's an S. That's an S. That's absolutely an S. I can't put that anywhere. Good Kid would be in the A though. All Right is definitely one of Kendrick's best tracks. That's an S. This I don't have anything for. Mr. Morale I would put in the A tier. I thought this was a fucking banger. I just thought it was a banger. I'm gonna put it in the D. Giving it the D. Hole Up I'd put in the A. This might be my favorite track on Section 80, but I really enjoyed this song. Very fun. That was one of the most fun tracks on the album. Chapter 6 would go in the C. Black Boy Fly I'd never heard. Mad City would go in the A or the S. This song is amazing. I don't know if personally this is an S tier for me. Like, I'd give the song a 10, but would I put it up here with these for me? Maybe not. Again, we'll come back to this list. I know Mad City is like everybody's favorite. But for the time being, I'm not gonna put it in S because I don't think I would say this is like one of my absolute favorites. The song's a 10. The song's incredible. Don't get me wrong. Duckworth, I would honestly, I haven't really been feeling this song too much. I'd kind of put it in C. Like, the story he tells in it is great. There's just something about the beat and the presentation of this track I haven't been crazy about. But I like the song. Okay. Silent Hill, I would probably put in the B. I really do like this track. I think I would put it just a little bit below A. Then we have Die Hard, which I would put in the A. If I wouldn't put it in S, because I'm going to be real, I really fucking liked this song. I really liked this song, but I'll put it in A. No Makeup gets an F tier. That's one of the worst songs I've heard from him. You is S tier. Easily. That song is fucking gut-wrenching. Like, one of the most intensely depressing songs I've ever heard. Just like that verse where he's drinking and breaking down in the hotel room, it makes my fucking stomach churn. It's so intense. It is so intense. Next up, we have The Art of Peer Pressure, which, oh, man. I think I'd put that in S. That song is astonishing. The beat on that is amazing. The story on that is incredible. I think I'd put that in S. Absol's outro is going to go in the C. What is this? You Ain't Gotta Lie, Mama Said. That'd go in the B. How Much a Dollar Cost? S tier. That's my favorite Kendrick song. That and For Free. Those are my favorite Kendrick songs. But How Much a Dollar Cost is probably actually my favorite. The instrumental on that is transcendent. Like the jazz piano, and then when that fucking horn shows up and the sloppy drums, and oh my god. And then the story about how, you know, he doesn't want to give to this homeless man is so fucking deep. It's deep. That is one of the deepest songs ever. Straight up. That shit's so good. Mama, I would put in the B tier. Yeah. I think Institutionalized I'd actually move to A. Mama and You Ain't Gotta Lie are my least favorites on TPAP, so I'll probably put these down here. Then we have Feel, which I'll go with a B, but I could consider an A even for that one. I really liked that track. No, this is an A. Last time I heard this, I really fucking liked that song. That was a really good song. I'd probably put that in A. There's like this moment towards the end where he picks up the pace, like, and he starts like shouting his verse, and the beat doesn't change that much, but just his intensity just amps up so much, and I really felt that. Then we have Count Me Out, which I would put in the B. United in Grief gets S. United in Grief is astonishing. That song is, I couldn't even believe that shit when I first heard that. I really couldn't. Like, when the drums come in and then they cut out abruptly to the piano, then the drums come back in with the piano. By the way, that whole section, like, it sounds like Radiohead. Am I off beat? Am I off for thinking that? Is that a stupid thing to say? Like, when the drums, piano, and that little like synth are all together, and all the instrumentation comes together, it sounds like Radiohead. It reminded me of Amnesiac. Like, the piano chords are very Radioheady over like the electronic drum beat. Does anybody agree with that? I felt like it sounded like Radiohead. If you don't hear it, go listen to it and you'll hear it. I swear to God. Those piano chords are Radiohead as fuck. And then that little synth, that doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Anyway, we have, I'm right? I am right! I'm totally right. Thank you. Then we have Mirror. I'd put that in A. I loved that closer. Wesley's Theory is an S. Without a fucking doubt. God damn, Wesley's Theory. Holy shit. There's like so much going on in that song. It's crazy. There's so much going on in that song. I love George Clinton's appearance in this track. And the bass just constantly wobbling around. Oh my god, what an amazing track. There's like so much to dissect with that verse too. Amazing song. Money Trees I'd put in the A. Element I would put in the B. Swimming Pools I would put in the S. That might be a basic bitch pick, but I love Swimming Pools. I love that song. It's so fucking good. This goes here. Blood will go in the D tier. I enjoy when the Fox News segment comes on and then transitions into DNA. I think that's a good part, but the whole thing with the blind woman, I do understand the point. It's that he feels like, the whole album, he feels like he's been trying to help people, but he's been being backstabbed and that sort of thing. I get that's the point of the story. The way he tells it is so fucking corny and stupid. It's so stupid when he's like, have you lost something? Yes, you've lost your life. Like, what the fuck? That's dumb. Anyway, it's an okay intro, but that shit's dumb. Okay, this, I don't put in that here. Keisha's song will go in the C. Very conflicted on that track in general. Compton I'd put in the A. Well, probably in the B, but I actually really like that track. The studio recording of I. It has been so long since I've heard the studio single version. I'm gonna have to put it here because I haven't heard that in forever. Heart Part 5 I still haven't listened to, though I do intend to. Don't have any opinion on that. These can. Mortal Man is an S tier. I mean, like on all levels, whether it's the skit at the end or the song itself, like every aspect of that track is mind-blowing. That's S tier for sure. God is an F tier. That might be the worst. This might be the worst. This might be the worst song that I've heard from him. This song is just outright terrible. It is really bad. DNA I would put in the A. Fear I would put in either the A or the B. I do really enjoy it. I'll probably put it in B for now. Crown I would put in the A. Love I would put. Look, some people aren't gonna fuck with this. I'm gonna put it in A. I really like this song. I know this is the one everybody doesn't like on Damn. I'm sorry. I think I don't know. I don't hear what people hearing that think them so bad. I said that sentence really weird. I meant to say I don't hear what makes everybody think this is so bad. I just don't. I really like this track. I was vibing to this so hard. I felt like this song really sounds like what love feels like. It's really beautiful. I really liked that song. I don't know, whatever. Everyone's gonna probably disagree with that, but Tammy's song, Her Evil, that gets an F tier. Again, this shit's homophobic. I don't know what's up with that shit. Fuck Your Ethnicity will go in the A tier. That is a great ass song. Purple Hearts will go in the B. Rich Spirit will go in the B. I really like this song though. I put it in the B. Ignorance is Bliss will go in the, I don't know. Shireen will go in the A. 05? Which one is 05? That's, oh, 05. Okay, that one was pretty good. I put it in B, probably. Poor Man's Dreams goes in the C. What is this? Complexion of Zulu Love? That would go in the A. Amazing ass song. Amazing ass song. But not as amazing as these. Blow My High would go in the C. Yeah, maybe the D, actually. What did I give that? I'm trying to remember what I ended up settling on for that song. And we'll just put it in the D for now. I didn't particularly enjoy it. Then we have Bitch Don't... Oh, right. That's... Never mind. Loyalty, I'd put that in B. I enjoyed it when it was playing. That I don't have any opinion on. I Live will go in the S. That's one of the top tier moments on this record for me. Like, not just the performance of the song, which is unbelievably fucking good, by the way. Like, the energy of that performance is crazy. But then the whole skit after that, leading into Mortal Man, it's one of the highlights of the entire album. It's just so fucking deep and interesting and intense, too. Humble, I would put in the... I think I have to go with C. I do like this track, but it sounds a little bit not great. Honestly, the beat sounds a little thin and weird. This song has not held up too well, but, you know, it's enjoyable. We have a Savior interlude, which I would put in the B. Auntie Diaries, which I would put in the A. I think this song, again, is an incredibly flawed, problematic masterpiece of a track. But those problematic elements just hurt me personally too much for me to put it in the S tier in this case. We have ADHD, which I would put in the C. I liked the track. It was one of the better ones on Section 80, but I honestly didn't think it was that good. King Kunta's S tier. Absolutely. Yeah, King Kunta's S tier. King Kunta is fucking amazing. That funky and enjoyable and catchy as hell. And Kendrick's rapping on that song is amazing. That song is so goddamn good. It has one of the catchiest choruses of Kendrick Lamar's entire career. Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst is S tier. Really mind-blowing moment on Good Kid, Mad City, where everything really comes together and the story just wraps up in such a brilliant-ass way. For Sale Interlude, I would put in the A. I think this has an amazing, dreamy instrumental, and it just really gets me lost in the sound of it. It's so beautiful and so awesome. Wouldn't put it in S. That's the only thing I'll say, but yeah, that song is amazing. High Power will go in the A. I think this song is fucking awesome as fuck. One of my favorites on Section 80 for sure. 01 I would put in the D. Maybe even the F. Honestly, 01 kind of sucks ass. No, for now I'm going to put it in F. I'm not going to lie. I really don't like 01. The more I was listening... Like, I listened to this 3 times, and this 01 track turns me off so hard at the start of Untitled Unmastered. It sounds like dog shit. It comes together so poorly. This, I have no opinion. Cushion Corinthians goes in the C. Okay, here you go. Here's like a kind of bit of a haphazard Kendrick Lamar tier list. My thoughts on Damn are definitely going to change as I continue to listen to that. Other than that, I would say this is all pretty... Oh yeah, and Untitled Unmastered also. And Good Kid, Mad City as well. All of those albums I'm still like listening to more to kind of really formulate my full thoughts on them. But I'm decently satisfied with this. Mad City in A is probably the most questionable thing, and that might move up for me. At the current moment in time, this would be my takes, probably. I would say these... Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, I'm going to move up. I talked about how I might move that up. I'm moving that up. That's one of the best tracks on Good Kid, Mad City. So I'm moving that up. Okay, how do we feel about this? Is this okay? Now do a tier list of every minute of every Kendrick Lamar song. Okay, I might need to listen a little bit more to some of Kendrick stuff to be able to do that. Maybe, but Um. Okay, the last thing I want to show y'all is just to show y'all that I've been working on this. This is literally so indulgent, and you might find this cringe, but like, I don't care. Like yesterday, yesterday night, I had the thought of making this tier list because like I've always wanted to make a tier list template for other people to use, and I had the thought of making this tier list, but I was like, it's gonna be too much work. But I don't know, like sometimes I just like I get so fixated on something, and then I just like work on it for hours and nothing can pull me away from it. Like I'll be hungry and shit and I won't even go and eat. Like maybe it's not great, but anyway, I had this idea I wanted to do and I ended up working on it last night. I spent I think 4 hours on this and I'm still not done, but I want to show you. It's pretty cool. I set up an all Violet Pony songs template. Oh, I actually did it. Maybe I should reset it. If I reset it, I guess I'll have to reset it. All right, damn, I'm resetting all this. It didn't take me that long to actually do the tier list. It was making and uploading the tier list that took all the time because I had to go through. So I went on GIMP and I had like a template where I would just like, I could just quickly write, do all the little images. Why isn't it resetting? So anyway, like, I mean, it was feasible. It's not like it was insanely a lot of work. It's just there's so many fucking songs and I'm not even done yet because I still need to do like all the singles and I've only gotten this shit done. But you don't know why you can't delete duplicates? Exactly, I know. Like I accidentally had a duplicate and it's just stuck now, and it's fucking this stupid ass song. But anyway, but yeah, no, I went through and did this. I actually am pretty proud of this. I like when I do fun things because I have nothing else to do and I just get fixated and want to make something. And I made this and that. I am proud of. But I'm gonna like put this on Twitter and shit and stuff. Maybe people will actually do it, but I'm not gonna do that just yet because it's not like fully done. It is up though if you want to go do it. It's up. But I need to keep working on the singles down here because there's a lot of extra singles and stuff. Other than that though, I had all the albums and EPs and everything on here. So even some like deluxe version tracks and shit. So I went out of my way. I really went off on this. But anyway, if you want the link for this, let me post it in chat really quickly. So you can don't post it anywhere yet. I mean, you can. It's just like I'm gonna post it on Twitter and stuff when I'm finished with it. But you should do it. You should go if you know any Violet Pony tracks. You should do this. It's pretty fun. I did my own and I do it the way I've been doing things. Like, so how do you guys? Okay. Anyway, that is cool and all. Maybe one day on stream I'll actually do this and no one will watch. But I need to finish the tier list anyway. But what I wanted to ask about tier lists was, how do you guys like my process for them? Because I've started to hone this. When I first started doing them, I think like it would be S tier was a 10 out of 10, A was a 9, B would have been like a 7, C was 6 and 5, D was like 4 and 3, and F was 2 and 1. So I was like very like methodical with it. Like it had to match my ratings. But ever since, I don't know which tier list really got me on doing this. Maybe it was the Beatles one. Although for that, it was kind of a necessity because the Beatles are the fucking Beatles. But how do you feel about like D being like the middling tracks? Because that's basically what I've been using it for in the last few tier lists I did. Even when I did Violet Pony, it's like with D, that's like a 5 out of 10 or like a 4. It's like a range where it's like these are middling tracks. C are tracks that I mildly like. I personally think that makes more sense because there's only so much to work with, and with so many of these artists, like they're artists who I really, really love. So if I didn't deflate my thoughts just a tiny bit, it would be so heavily skewed towards S that S wouldn't like mean anything. You know what I mean? Like there are some 10 out of 10 songs here, like for sure, in the A tier here. And I hope that you understand that. So it's like, the only concern when I do this is that people will see things in A and they'll be like, why isn't it an S? But it's like, I might have something in A that I think is like fucking incredible on its own. Like I have no complaints or anything. It's just when I'm thinking about like in comparison to that entire artist's work, maybe it's not one of my S tiers. You know what I mean? You do tier lists like S is 10, A is 9. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I see. 10, 9, 8, 7. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well then, but then if you do that, then you kind of see, you do something sort of similar to what I do, except that A for me can also include like a 10. But anyway, like, have y'all been okay with that? Have y'all been able to follow? Like when I did this tier list, were you able to understand my thoughts? Like you understood that if I put something in A, that was like a really high praise, like a really high praise. Do you understand that? Because I'm gonna keep doing tier lists obviously on the show, and if people don't get my scale, do a meme and rename them. Yeah, but I kind of like them just being like this, though. I think it just makes it simpler. I don't know. It could just be something I'm always going to have to specify, like, every video, but I'm okay with that because I'd rather that than have, like, for example, if I did this the 10 out of 10 way, it would probably be, like, I think at this rate, it would be like this, right? For Sale would be up here, Complexion would be up here, Die Hard would be up here. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like this. Anyway, that's that. I think I'm done with the show tonight because the main thing I wanted to do was review Mr. Morale and I hope that you were able to get something out of that. So, anyway, I'll see y'all next time. I'll probably upload the Mr. Morale video. I also have a bunch of tier list videos just kind of in the backlog to edit over time, so hopefully you'll get more than one video this week. And yeah, thanks for watching, first of all. And bring back to gaming streams. Look, things are hectic right now, between a lot of different things, and especially like even aside anything like that, like at work, I've been working a lot because I'm broke as fuck at the moment. So I'll try to bring back I'll try to do gaming streams sometimes for y'all. Okay, I'll try to. But you can always be certain. You can always be certain that even if I'm not doing gaming streams, you're gonna get a music breakdown stream every Wednesday. I'm always gonna stream every Wednesday. Okay. So, anyway, I appreciate you watching. Stay tuned to the channel for any video uploads. There might be some tier lists going up and stuff. And that pretty much does it. So I'll see you around. Thanks for watching. See you next time, hopefully.